of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord when Ehud was dead. And the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, then reigned in Hazor, the captain of whose host was Sisera, which dwelt in Harosheth of the Gentiles. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord, for he had 900 chariots of iron, and 20 years he mightily oppressed the children of Israel. And Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, she judged Israel at that time. And she dwelt under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the Mount Ephraim. And the children of Israel came up for her judgment. And she sent and called Barak, the son of Abinadab, out of Kadesh Naphtali, and said unto him, hath not the Lord God of Israel commanded, saying, go and draw toward Mount Tabor, and take with thee 10,000 men of the children of Naphtali, and of the children of Zebulun. And I will draw unto thee unto the river Kishon Sisera, the captain of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his multitude, and I will deliver him into thine hand. And Barak said unto her, if thou wilt go with me, then I will go. But if thou wilt not go with me, then I will not go. And she said, I will surely go with thee, notwithstanding the journey that thou takest shall not be for thine honor, but for the Lord shall sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. And Deborah arose and went with Barak to Kadesh. And Barak called Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh, and he went up with 10,000 men at his feet, and Deborah went up with him. The main thing that stuck out in this is there's one line. But I've already just jumped all the way to the end. But anyway, it stuck out through this whole thing. And if thou wilt go with me, then I will go. That's the ongoing theme throughout the whole Bible. Lord, if you'll go with me, then I'll go. Barak, he in this case, Deborah was a judge, and to understand what the judges were, Israel was under captivity. They didn't have a king, didn't have anybody that ruled their own people. They were subject to somebody else. So Deborah, I believe she was the fourth judge that Israel had, and they would come to her for guidance. She was like the mouthpiece of God. She was God's mouthpiece, God's representative, and she had this place that she would come under a palm tree. And in those days there was no air conditioning, so you couldn't. The only relief you had from the sun was under a tree. If you ever seen a palm tree don't give a whole lot of shade, but it was a relaxing place that she found, and everybody knew where it was, and they could come to get advice for them. Now, if you can imagine, try to put this in perspective. You think about 900 chariots. They've been under oppression for 20 years. We don't know what that's like. We have no idea to know what it's like to be ruled by another country or another force of people. We've been blessed to be free for a long time. But to try to think about what this may be like, and I tried to find a way to do it so the proportions would be right. But if you think about here in our community, here in Rumble and Ashford and Nellis, and think about it as the city of Charleston coming over here and ruling over top of us. Things that we have wasn't ours. We would have to pay homage to them if they wanted our belongings, then they could come and take it. They could bring chariots and men and come over and take it. And nothing that we had we could call our own. If they wanted our house, they could take it. Same way that these people that was ruling over King Jabin, and he oppressed them. He was hard on them for 20 whole years. You imagine how that could break somebody down if they were being hit by the same thing for 20 years, being pretty much a slave for 20 years. And it was about the size, we'll say, of between the mountains here versus the size of an army, the size of the city of Charleston. That would be an amazing force to see. I don't think that you wouldn't want to go up against them. You wouldn't want to be surrounded if you have 10,000 and then you have 100,000 that you're going up against. What do you think your odds are going to be? Would you want to go up against that? Would you want to fight that army? There'd be a lot of doubt. This ain't going to last no time. We ain't going to make it through this battle. So why even bother? Maybe in another few years we can try it then. But I think that God had been dealing with Barak during this, because when he went to Deborah and talked to her, it was because she called for him. He wasn't on his own, and it made me think of Jonah again, because he didn't want to go. He didn't want to go either. And God sent something for him too, to help him change his mind. But Deborah sent for him. It wasn't that he came to her for guidance. It was that Deborah had sent for him and said, "Hath not the Lord of God commanded? Don't you know that God has commanded you? You didn't think I knew about it, but I know. God showed it to me. And you're supposed to be doing, you need to be organizing this, because God's about to deliver us out of their hands." And he told him to go forth and draw toward Mount Tabor and take 10,000 men. And right at Mount Tabor, there was a river, Kadesh, that flowed by. And to try to put this in a way that we can think about it, is if, we're all over here on this side trying to plan our freedom, trying to break free from the evil power forces of Charleston. And we're told that God is going to deliver us from this if we do what he says. And what he's told us to do, the closest thing that will come to mind, I kind of thought, well, God's told us to go and meet down at the mouth of the Coal River around St. Albans, and we'll gather down there, and they'll know it because it's within their sight. And that's kind of the same thing that happened here. They were gathering all right outside to try to draw them out, because God had already had a plan, and Barak needed some reassurance. And he needed that reassurance that he could go through with this, and he could lead this army. But he wanted God's spokesperson right there with him by his side. He couldn't do it on his own. In times past, we've seen where God had spoken to people directly through a burning bush, or if we were walking down the road and all of a sudden we received a message from God in this burning bush, we saw the flame, but the bush wasn't being consumed, and we received this message. Doesn't matter what the message is, but we received this message. That's going to get our attention. And during this time, Deborah, she was the judge. She was that burning bush at this time. And Barak told her that if if thou wilt go with me, then I will go. But if you won't go with me, then I won't go. And he was looking to her for strength because she was close to God. She had God's ear. God spoke to her. God impressed things on her. So he wanted her close by her side. And so they all gathered up down on the Coal River where the battle was going to take place. Charleston versus Rumble. Big battle getting ready to happen. And what happens? It says that it ends at verse 10 in here that they got up together and they went. And Deborah went with them. But there's more to that story. You can read about the battle and how it was taken. But God confounded the chariots so they wouldn't work. 900 chariots. You think about 900 chariots would maybe be, and to look at it today, and you say tanks. 900 tanks is a pretty powerful force, and could wipe out poor little Ashford and Rumble. But if you had, if it was mud, tanks couldn't move. Same as those chariots couldn't move. And it was down on a river bank, and there's some studies that say that God caused it to rain before the chariots would, and he could have done it right then and there, or I believe so much God has so much control over things that he could have locked up the axles in the chariot so they wouldn't work. It wouldn't have had to be muddy or slippery or whatever. But it was just that God was ready to deliver them. And we're the same way when he's ready to deliver us from things. We get to be the same way. How many times does a story start out like this chapter starts out? And the children of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord. We get comfortable. That's what it boils down to. We get comfortable, and I remember the time Richard preached about our boundaries, and he'd take that and step out a little. We'd widen our boundaries a little bit more and more every time, allowing more things in that we become comfortable with.
You're right.
And that's same. It's just something that I guess it's human nature to do that. We get comfortable with things, what we allow in our house, or what we allow our eyes to see, or words out of our mouth. We get a little bit comfortable, but that's when we have to draw. But what we're blessed with is now we don't go to a judge, we don't go to a prophet, or well, now we have Jesus. Jesus is our spokesperson, our representative to God his Father. And we can speak to him directly anytime, day or night, about anything. It doesn't matter whether it's a army coming up against us. Sometimes those things that we have in our life feel like it's an army, a battle that we're fighting. But we can draw on God through Jesus Christ at any time. But that's what just going to stick in my mind for, Lord, if you'll go with me, then I'll go. I'll do so many things that covers. And I can't do it without him. Can't do a thing without him. But that's the lesson we had for this morning.